Whose life are you living? We like to think we are living our own lives, that we have our own mind, our mindset, what we want to do and where we want to go, and all our thought processes are our own. But in fact, quite often our thought processes are part of somebody else's ideology or ideas. The way society thinks, the way your parents think, the way your partner thinks, the way your children think, the way your best friends think, the way your acquaintances think, the way people at work think, the way the media portrays life, which is predominantly negative, the way you read things in newspapers, your magazines, your hobbies, they all comprise part of your thought process. How you assimilate those and how you go forward in life is down to all these kind of things. We must, above all of that, think of whom we are as people. What do we want to do out of life? And it's not being selfish, self-centered or thoughtless or not putting anybody else into the equation, but if we can't do anything for ourselves, we can't actually do much for somebody else either, because we're not solidly grounded in whom we are and what we need to do to be proficient people and happy at the same time. Because happiness is a fundamental part to whom we are as people. And if we're not happy, then we can't actually portray that happiness towards other people either, because they're going to pick up subliminally that there's something wrong in what we're saying and what we're doing. So if we have to be unhappy because we're doing things to please other people all the time, then we actually have something called the chameleon effect. The chameleon effect is pleasing everybody all the time, and therefore you actually be everything to everybody else and nothing to yourself. And that makes a world of difference, because if you're everything to everybody else and nothing to yourself, you're actually letting yourself down. You've got to respect yourself, you've got to be at one with yourself, and you've got to understand where other people are coming from too. And there are people who are quite bombastic and loud and arrogant and say, oh, you should do this, they should do this, look at the government, they're doing this, isn't it disgusting about the state of this and the economy and people? Well, fine, it may be, but that's for them to reconcile themselves and not for you to pick up on their thought process just because they've said it. And also it's important not to sort of go after other people because they say certain things which sound smart, but it means nothing to you. If you can't uphold what you're going to say and you're actually trying to follow somebody else, then you're not being sincere to yourself. You're not actually being remotely, in fact, genuine to yourself either. So it's important in life that we must follow our own pathway. We must do what we want to do, and we must say what we want to say. How we say that is down to us. We all report things in different ways, and it depends on our character, our upbringing, our knowledge, our education, anything else. But there are two or three things which are common to everybody, and that is the word yes and the word no. And so don't ever be led into something you don't want to do just to please somebody else. You may do if it's your partner because, oh, all right, then I'll do something, which is fine, that's okay. But if you're actually pushed or cajoled or bullied into something, or you've got some bombastic person at work who says, right, I want 10 volunteers, you, and it's nothing to do with work at all, it's to do with what they want to do, then do not be frightened to say no, because it's the way you are. And if you keep saying yes, 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 you will actually become downtrodden within. And if you become downtrodden within, you lose the ability then to commune with other people, because you're always trying to find ways out or excuses, or you say yes when you mean no, or no when you mean yes, and it doesn't produce anything which is remotely happy within yourself. So it's important that we actually run our own lives, our own thoughts. You can concur with other people, what they say yes, I agree with you. But if you don't agree, that's fine. You can agree not to agree. You can say, yes, okay, well, this is your thought process. This is what you think. Fine, that's all right. I don't believe in that at all. I think it's something completely different. And that's fine as well. You can agree to differ. But you must at all times, and I keep saying this, you must at all times actually go forward on what you think. To hell with the press, because they're always negative and they only actually commit things for the day. Tomorrow they'll change their mind depending on circumstances or how they've designed or led their front page to attract more attention. That's all divisive, and it's two-faced, insincere, and they may be correct at times, but most times they're not. They want to sell more newspapers or get more airtime on TV or listeners or viewers or whatever it may be. Above all that, you are you. You have to live your life, nobody else can live it for you. So it's important too that if you don't live your life, then you can't do really much for anything regarding your future. Your future is going to be somewhat dismal because you're always going to be failing or falling short, which is not to say that everything you do in life will be successful. It isn't, and not for everybody either. But at least the road to getting where you want to do, where you want to be, can be quite enjoyable. And if you say yes when you mean yes, and no when you mean no, and you don't have to be rude when you say that or arrogant. If you don't like something, then say so. If you want to be sort of slightly on the fence and say, well, it's not my cup of tea, that's fine as well. But don't go around pleasing other people for the sake of them wanting to be pleased, because that's disingenuous. And it doesn't do them any good either, because they actually get a false impression of whom they are themselves. And whilst you're not on this earth to teach everybody else a lesson or put them in their place or anything else like that, you need at the same time to be whom you are, because people need to love you, warts and all. They need to love you for your failings as well as your fabulous points. And we all have fabulous points. We don't need to actually go around trying to say yes just to please other people, or because you respect them or you admire them or whatever it may be, or they're the president of this or that. Fine. Next. You need to be with people who mean something to you, and not aspire to people who mean nothing to you, but you aspire to them because you think it's quite good or smart. Don't do anything smart. Smart is what you get on documentaries on television. It's smart conversation because it sounds good, but it's normally hollow, disingenuous, and it's only for the moment. It doesn't have any longevity to go with it. So you must actually be yourself. And say no, say yes, and if you're not sure, say okay, fine, the jury's out, but make some statement from yourself. Don't follow everybody else. And if 9 people like something and you don't, then fine, you don't. It's the same with food. If you go out and you don't like something and you really don't like it, or you're allergic to it, then you won't eat it. And it's the same with conversations. Don't eat other people's conversations. Make sure if you don't like them, you're not going to swallow it. Say, no, I don't. Because when you do that, you will grow in status, you'll grow in your own stature, and you'll grow in your own self-respect too. And once you've grown in your own self-respect, you'll see life from a different perspective. You'll see life from a far greater angle. You'll see the goodness in life, you'll see angles you haven't seen before, and you'll see people in different light, and you'll be able to spot those that are disingenuous and spot those which are genuine too. And that's quite important, because you don't want to be led down the garden path by people doing things, maybe because they're not of bad intentions, but because they think it's good. Thinking good isn't being good. Big difference there. So again, be yourself, respect yourself.